Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and we're starting this video pretty much at the end of the video. I've just made the final assembly on this big armoire. I can't put this piece on. I call it the tiara because that part's called the crown, because I don't have enough ceiling clearance. The reason it came to the lab is because the house where this thing lives has a plaster ceiling, and plaster is not that chalky stuff we think of cheap figurines. When you put it on a wall or a ceiling, you're actually using a kind of concrete. It's very heavy, and the ceiling caved in, hit the top, and pushed this post all the way down, and this piece went all the way to the floor, cracking these parts and bending this and basically distorting everything. It always tells a story about the time when it was made, and this piece was made before houses normally had closets. This is called a knockdown armoire, and this big screw right here holds this side piece to the base. We've got our catalog number here so that they can keep all the pieces that go to a single armoire together. And everything is held together with these screws and more wood screws on the back. The back is two large frame panels that are fastened into the crown, the sides, and the base with screws. And that pretty much is the entire structure. When this piece would be delivered to your house, it came in a big giant crate, sort of the way you would buy a bookshelf from IKEA today. The workmen would uncrate it, set it up in your bedroom or your den or wherever you wanted it put, because once it was in place, it wasn't leaving until it was taken apart again, because this is way too big to go through the doors of even maybe the grandest houses. We start with the base, which received the most damage. This piece here was pushed all the way down to the floor, and that fractured the top rail here, and over at the corners as well. And unfortunately, there were just so many splinters and little loose pieces of wood. There was no way to put it back together. So all I could do was simply restore the structural strength right here. So it's nice and solid, and it's going to be able to hold the weight of the upper cabinet. The only other alternative would have been to try and knock this piece apart and reproduce this rail, and that would have put the whole project pretty much out of any realistic budget. Now, you never know what kind of surprise you're going to find when you're looking at a piece this old. The first was the drawer support was simply this piece of Home Depot grade 2x4. You can see two nail holes. They've been puttied over. And there's where the nails where I cut them off to get this piece out. Both sides were like that. And on the inside, I couldn't find any evidence of any original drawer guides. I don't know how they were put in, but I manufactured these based on other armoires I've seen. That's pretty much the way most of them were done. Drawer construction is what allows me to put a date on this thing, give or take 10 years. What we have right here is what's called a nap joint. Now, I've talked a lot about dovetails in previous videos, and basically what it was is that when furniture making moved into furniture mills where they had big machines like planes and saws that could spit these boards out and even cut these kinds of moldings like this, they were unable to make dovetails because the little small spaces, you would need a cutter, a small cutter, spinning very, very fast. And they just simply couldn't do that in the 1800s. However, they could drill holes. And so a guy named Knapp came up with a machine, and this is a machine-made joint, which made these kinds of joints. The process starts off with this thing called a core bit. This is a type of it. I use it to cut plugs out of wood, so that I have a grain that matches the board that I'm working on. I can cover up a screw hole or something like that. But it basically works like this. Nap made a machine with a whole row of these, which if you carry it out, you'll come up with something that looks like that. Then you drill holes, and you've got a machine-made joint that's just as strong as a dovetail. It's a nice strong joint. I can't see any problems with it. But for some reason, coming into the late 1890s, machine technology had improved to the point to where you could make dovetails with a machine. And just about the time when I imagine all the original nap machines were wearing out and needed to be replaced, nobody bought another one. So by 1900, nap joint drawers had pretty much disappeared from American furniture. The box is held together with a combination of bolts and screws, and the screws are always the problem. After 150 years, and who knows how many times it's been taken apart and reassembled, there's always going to be stripped out screw holes and multiple screw holes. So the thing to do is just go ahead and plug them up and start over. There are dowels to keep everything aligned. And a machine bolt goes into a steel nut on the bottom side. Once I get that down snug, I can complete the assembly. This back panel has suffered multiple indignities. This big hole here is very common in this kind of furniture because in the old days, televisions, cathode ray television sets, had a big piece that stuck out the back and you couldn't close the door. So you just saw a hole in the back and it all stuck out. What I've done here is just simply made a patch from an old drawer bottom, which is fastened in with screws, not permanent at all, but that leaves the possibility that in the future this panel could be repaired in a slightly more artful manner. This top piece up here was broken or lost somewhere in the past, and when it came in it had this piece of old, I don't know, something from some kind of old furniture because it's got this groove cut in it, but it was held in place with these pieces of particle board and nails. Now the styles, the pieces on the side here are poplar. I didn't have any poplar, but I did have some cedar, and I was able to make a very nice replacement piece for it. And a little bit of stain. It'd be on the inside. No need for worrying about making too close a exact match. I'm putting the back on with zinc coated steel screws because first off, this is 2025. Second off, there's no appearance problems here on the back. Nobody's ever going to see this unless they turn it around. And I want to have the same screws all the way around. The divider is held in place with a couple dowels on the bottom and one on the top that goes into the top shelf. But to make life just a little bit easier, put a couple of wooden blocks up here to hold it in place while I get everything together. The top shelf was missing when I went to pick this piece up, but fortunately I have some white oak that I've salvaged from different packing crates. It's got a American walnut stain on it. That's the original color of it. And this is one of those pieces that you better put it in before you put the top on. Because it's just simply not going to fit if you don't. doors have this nice, thick, beveled mirror, which means that they weigh about 45 pounds, and that makes hanging them on the hinges really kind of a challenge. The first thing I'm going to do is take a 1-inch screw and cut the head off of it. Then file flat spots on both sides of what's left of the shank. And that makes it easier to grab it with this little pair of vice grips. Then I installed one cut-off screw in one of the screw holes at each hinge mortise. Holding a 40-pound door in one hand and a screwdriver in the other is just not realistic. So I made this frame for a little extra help, and then some wedges so that I could bring the door up square with the door frame. Now my sawed-off screw lets me get all 3 hinges pretty much lined up so that I can get a good strong screw into each hinge and pretty much take all the risk out of this whole thing falling down on me. And when all is right in the world, you end up with a door that swings smoothly, closes flat. However, world rightness is a fleeting thing. Although this thing looks really solid, it's not. All these connections held together with bolts and screws are pretty flexible. And when I take this apart, I'm going to put it in the truck, I'm going to haul it over to the customer's house, and I have no idea whether his floor is level. It might tilt one way, it might tilt way. All 4 corners where the casters rest may be slightly different. So I fully expect to be spending quite a bit of time getting these doors to open and close as easy as they do now, once I've got it put in place where it's going to stay, I hope probably for the rest of its life, at least for the rest of mine. So this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. Thank you for sitting through this video about this very old armoire. We'd appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Tell all your friends, tell your family, and hope to be back again soon with another video. Thank you very much.